So you've bought your first house before, but now you think you want to sell this one and buy another one. Where on earth do we start? Well, if you want to know, then watch on, because I've got all the answers for you. Now, I've had a good look online and I can't find too much information about this. So I've got a whole video packed with all the info you need to know how to go from owning this house to moving into a new one and all the steps of the process for you. So if you like what I'm talking about and you find the video useful, please do give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There's a new video every week for you. Okay, so first things first then, this is very much the same message that I talk about in lots of other videos. The first thing we need to do is prepare ourselves. Now, it's a little bit different in this example though. We don't need to save for our deposit because our deposit is probably already in our house. We don't call it deposit anymore though, we call it equity. So when it's in your house, it's called equity. It'll be your deposit for your new house. Now, preparation starts with a valuation. So this is the first thing we need when we're trying to decide if we can sell our house and buy another one. We need to know how much the current house is worth. Now, we can usually kind of have a look online and gauge a rough idea on valuation for you, but really what we need is an estate agent or two or three maybe to come out, see your house, give you an idea on its market value. Now, some word of warnings here. Some estate agents will give you a really high figure trying to tempt you to go with them. Highest is not always best. It needs to be a realistic figure. So we need an agent that's actually done some research and got some similar properties that have been sold, not necessarily by them, but similar properties to yours that have been sold recently as well and not too far away, and the price that they have sold for will give you an idea of what yours is worth. So we can help you look at those things, but an estate agent has all the tools needed to look for that. So valuation is the first thing we need. Once we know how much your house is worth, then we can start to think about how much you can borrow and what your situation is. It may have changed since you last did your mortgage, and also you will probably have a mortgage with a lender already. It is sometimes best to keep that mortgage and move it with you to the new house. We can do that, but sometimes actually it's best to get rid of that mortgage and start again. Sometimes there'll be a penalty on the current mortgage, but it can be worth it sometimes. So I've had lots of people in the past where actually we've had to start again with a new mortgage because the existing lender won't lend them anywhere near enough, or the rate isn't very good and we can get a better deal or loads more money from a new lender. So either way, we're going to work out what your affordability is, and that will probably give us an agreement in principle as well. So that's a credit score. So we had to do an agreement in principle when you bought your first property so that you were ready to go. We need to do the same thing now so that we know that you're good to go for your next property. In amongst this process, we're going to talk about all the fees and the costs that we're going to have for moving. So when you bought your first house, we had things like stamp duty and solicitors, but now we've got those things again. We've got stamp duty and we've got solicitors for the move, but we've also got solicitors for the sale of your house. Slightly cheaper normally for the sale, but word of warning here actually, always use the same solicitor for your sale and your purchase. You don't want to be using different solicitors, that's a nightmare. So same solicitor for sale and purchase. We're also going to have to pay an estate agent as well. Now we'll talk about estate agents some more in a minute. I actually own an estate agency as well, so I know what's involved and I know the process, so we'll talk about that more in a second. So once we've got all of those fees and costs and things sorted, we know our budget for our move, we know how much you can borrow and how much that's going to cost. We'll know what sort of houses you can go and start looking at. But before you go and get carried away, there's one thing we need to do, and that is sell your house. We can't buy a new house until you've sold yours. So you have to be what we call proceedable. You have to have a buyer in place before you can go and secure a new property. Very, very, very rarely will someone take their property off the market for you if you haven't sold. If you put yourself in their position, would you take your house off the market for someone that couldn't actually buy it yet? The answer is probably no, you wouldn't. So we need to be in that position. Now, a lot of people worry about that process. They think, oh well, I can't sell my house because what if I'm homeless? You know, I haven't found anywhere yet. That's completely the opposite way round of how we need to do it. We need to be in that proceedable position. No one is going to force you to move out. You don't move out until you exchange contracts. But everyone in the chain, we'll talk about chain again in a second, but everyone in that chain has to exchange contracts at the same time. So no one is going to force you out of your property if you agree a sale but haven't found one yet. If your buyer won't wait, then we just have to find a new buyer, but that's okay because you haven't found a property yet, so that's okay. It has to be done this way round, and I'll harp on about this all day long. You have to find yourself a buyer before you can then go and find a new property to move into. So once we've got that all agreed, you're going to get yourself on the market, you're going to have some viewings and some interest in your house, you're going to get some offers and things. Once you've got an offer that's acceptable to you, you can say, yeah, I'll take your offer, whatever it is. Agree that with your estate agent's help, but we'll accept an offer on your house, and then, and only then, are you able to go and make an offer on the new house that you want. And you'll go through the same process with the people that are selling that and the agents that are dealing with that. Now, once that's all agreed, we are in a chain. Now, what is a chain, I hear you ask? It's not a long metal thing. It is a process. You are a link in the chain. So you are a seller and a buyer. So you have a buyer, there might be a buyer under them as well, but let's assume the bottom of the chain is buying your property, and then you're buying someone else's property, and then they're buying someone else's property, and then they're buying someone else's property. You're all links in the chain. Why do we call it a chain? Don't know, it's just all linked together, but that is what we call it, a chain. Now, the longer the chain, the longer the process is going to take. If someone's buying your house, and so let's say a first-time buyer is buying your house, and then you're buying someone else's house, and they're not buying on, maybe they're going into rented or getting divorced, or maybe they're buying a new build and that's not ready yet, so they're moving out for a little while, or maybe someone has died and the property's empty. That's a really, really short chain. That's not going to take very long at all. But if you're buying somewhere, and then they're buying, and then they're buying, and they're buying, and they're buying, it can go on a long, long time sometimes, and it can take a long time. But no matter how long the chain is, communication is key. So lots of people kind of look for a house and agree prices and things, and they want to say, well, yeah, we want to be in for Christmas, or we want to be in for the start of the school term, or we want to be in by the summer holidays, whatever it is. Yeah, we can talk about dates when offers are agreed, but we can't finalise anything until the chain is complete, and really until we exchange contracts. So I've done some more videos on the actual process where we talk about exchanging contracts and things in more detail, but we can't agree dates until we get to that point. We can have a date in mind and we can have a timescale in mind, and if we're all working to that, then that's great, but we can't dictate from the very start that it has to be done by a certain time, because it may well not be. Depends on the length of that chain. The key though here is to have a good estate agent. Now, your estate agent is worth their weight in gold. At this point, there's three parts of the estate agent's process. The first is to market your property and find a buyer. The second is to agree a price with you, act as a negotiator between the two and agree a price. The third, and so often overlooked, most often overlooked part of the estate agent's job, is to see it through, and is to liaise with all the solicitors and all the buyers and all the sellers and things. Because let me tell you, solicitors, and this isn't a solicitor bashing video at all, solicitors are great, they do a great job, but they are happy to sit and wait for things to happen a lot of the time. So we find so often that we'll call a solicitor and they'll say, oh yes, well, we're waiting on the answers to these questions that we've asked. And then you ring the solicitor that they're waiting for and you say, oh, they're waiting for the answers. And they say, well, no, we answered those the other day, or last week or whatever. And then you got this solicitor waiting, and then this solicitor thinks they've done it, and they won't talk to each other, they don't pick up the phone. So it takes someone really to act as an intermediary between those people up and down the chain, to make sure that everyone is communicating and make sure nothing is missed and no one's sat waiting for anyone to do anything else. That's where your estate agent comes in. And you don't tend to get that level of service with these kind of online do-it-yourself type agents. They're very cheap for a reason. It's because you put your property on Rightmove or whatever other sites, and someone will maybe see it and maybe think, oh yeah, I'd like to go and view that. They might help you talk to each other and things, but then that's pretty much it really. And without that background support from I was going to say proper real estate agent, then they are real estate agents, but without that background support from a more bespoke service, let's say, things can go wrong and things can drag on for ages and things. So, that type of service has its place, definitely. I would always recommend a traditional estate agent that's actually going to get involved in your process, the back end of the process, to see you from accepting your offer to actually moving in. So the most important part of all of this is communication. And if we all work together, if everyone up and down the chain is talking to each other, then it needn't be too stressful. If everyone has a common goal in mind, then everyone is working to the same goal, it can often work quite seamlessly. But things do go wrong all the time, so it's important to have a good solicitor, a good estate agent, good mortgage broker, obviously, as well in there. So I hope that has been useful. There's another key point to remember is that you cannot find a new property fully until you're in a position to proceed and you have sold yours. So that is the order we have to do it in. Find yourself a buyer and then find yourself your next property. Do not worry that you're going to be made homeless. You will not be. But if you would like some more information about anything we've talked about, drop us a comment, send us a message. You can actually book an appointment in the description below. I'll put a link to our website as well, so you can book a call with us. It's completely free, no obligation phone call if you would like. If you'd like more information on estate agency, then get in touch as well. So I hope that's been really useful. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel. There's another video coming for you next week. Until then, take care.